All right. Welcome to another episode of the Humanization Project. I'm here with my dear friend Dale at his house, which I'm very excited to be here because he recently bought a house, which is super exciting. I'm going to ask him about that here in a second. But Dale is actually the first person who I got to meet who was friends with my partner in prison, and he got out. Has it been almost 2 years?
Yes.
Yeah, almost 2 years ago. And when Dale was getting out, my partner told me...
We're going on 3.
Yeah.
February 22nd, 2017 was when I was released.
Cool. Yeah. So, but he told me that I absolutely had to meet Dale. And so Dale was one of the first people I met. And so I'm really excited to interview him because Dale's been doing so well, and he's such an awesome human being, and I think it's going to be really fun to talk with him. So I always kind of like to just start a little open-ended and just say, tell us about yourself, Dale.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We should have done this in front of the fireplace. It'd have been cuter.
We can move.
That's okay.
Okay.
Then I have to go get chairs. I don't know that I do nothing interesting. I work and I come home.
Right. What do you do for work?
I am a chef at a French bistro here in Williamsburg, Virginia.
Yeah.
And I focus on their prep and sauces and their setups for everything so that they have the standards across the board for all the items on the menu are set, so one person doing most of the work. And then that sets up the night chef to be able to have the stuff that he needs. And then I also focus on the ice creams. I am the ice cream chef. I actually just had at Brenner's Pass, the chef come in and I gave her some of my ice cream, my mashed potato with white chocolate gravy ice cream. And she was like, how'd you do this? I need to make this at my restaurant. How did you not get it grainy and starchy and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, research. So that was nice because I had a really good career before prison. But
as a chef.
As a chef.
Yeah.
And, but never in high profile areas. And now I'm being privileged to work with 2 or 3 of the highest profile chefs, some of them in the United States.
Yeah. Awesome.
So, and I do that, and then at home I research for that because it takes a lot of work to do that.
Yeah, you're cooking on a really, really high level. That isn't, I think, just cooking, but you're really looking at almost like the chemistry of it and really getting into like the nitty gritty stuff, which is things that I've only seen on like cooking shows on TV, but you're doing them in real life.
And I just so that people know, I just screwed up. I made a sorbet, a wonderful sorbet. It is a key lime and lavender, but it wasn't freezing for some reason, and I couldn't figure out why. And then I was like, well, something must be wrong. And Chef Scott set an eggshell in it, and the egg didn't sink. Which then tells us that it's too thick. There's too much sugar in it. Come to find out, when I was looking at it, when I wrote it out, I transposed sugar to water. So instead of 20 cups of water and 8 cups of sugar, I did 20 cups of sugar and 8 cups of water. It's all fixed. Yeah. But even professionals, we wouldn't have been able to figure it out if we hadn't done the research on how to make sorbets and know the science and that behind sorbets and why an egg does or doesn't float.
Right. That's very interesting. So, my science job, I used to freeze things for science. And we actually used sugars as cryoprotectants because they won't freeze.
Yes.
So, I understand exactly what you did.
Yep.
It's very funny.
So yeah, and then I'm telling him, no, I couldn't. We argued. I argued with him for bits like this doesn't lie. So then I pulled out what I wrote out, and I'm like, oh, I did. Yeah, that is what we did.
Yeah.
But it's a restaurant. The owner has 3 places. But he runs it like a family. A lot of the employees have been there a long time. A lot of them are families of each other. We don't run ads often. We just ask the people that work there to find people, and they do. We work with some of the culinary schools, but we had a customer tell one of our employees who is Russian that his order got messed up, not due to her fault. And he looked at her and said, "You probably can't understand me. That's why you screwed this up." He was asked to leave the restaurant because the owner doesn't believe you should put people down. And the owner didn't care that he was a paying customer and there was a party of 5 or 6. He cared that that's not how you treat people, you can leave.
Yeah.
So he keeps that concept. Not that there's not drama. Trust me, we have our fair share.
Yeah.
I am the oldest in the kitchen by 20 years. And the only hope I have is that these young people want everything for free, which means by the time I retire, they'll be running the country, so I will get free stuff as a retired person because they're going to pass laws to allow them to have free things, which will benefit me. But if you think Trump's bad, check out some of the Generation Zs. You'll like him better. Oh, I'm not kidding. I've seen some of the decisions they've made. I know that's wrong, Dale, but he's a friend of mine, so why would I tell him not to do that? They said, when you graduate with your degree in political science, you're going to go far in government.
So how did you end up getting the job at the restaurant?
I don't know.
You don't know?
When I got out of prison, the only job I could find was in a bagel shop.
I remember that, yeah.
So, don't be too proud to take whatever job is offered to you.
Right.
Because you don't know what opportunities lie ahead. And it's better to be working than waiting for the right job and not working.
Right.
Coming from someone that hires, that's very important. And I was supposed to be promoted, and then the district manager left. She changed companies, and the new district manager felt I wasn't there long enough. He didn't care about my outside experience. And my GM that I was working under, who was really great, she was looking at leaving as well. And I had my resume online. I don't ever remember applying because I didn't want to work in Williamsburg.
Right.
But I got a call from Chef Scott. I avoided his call for more than a month.
Really?
Yeah. Talked to him once on the phone. Did not want to come down here. Did not want to do the commute. Was concerned about having to go through, because when you're on probation, you have to tell them about your charges and that.
Right.
I didn't want to go through all that.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to start driving 45 miles, 50 miles. But he convinced me to come down and see the restaurant. At this particular restaurant, they do something different. Most chefs go in and do a day in the life at a restaurant, and they go cook at that restaurant. We show the people what we can do. They had me come down and bring a guest, and I spent 40 minutes watching what they do, and then they brought out a selection of their entire menu for me to try and eat.
Wow.
To see if I wanted to work for them.
Wow.
So that was different, because most companies feel that you need to prove why they should hire you. They wanted to prove why I should come work for them.
Right.
And Scott and I chatted. I explained my situation. I had to sit down with the owners and explain it, and they said they could care less. They've hired felons in the past. They'll hire them in the future. They wanted me to go through in detail to explain everything, because they are extremely connected with the community here in Williamsburg. They do fundraisers, they do charity drives. They're very involved. And that if someone in the community learns and starts making accusations,
Mm-hmm.
they can stand up with confidence and say, we know we have this under control,
Right.
don't worry about it.
Wow, that's really wonderful.
So they wanted to know so that they could protect me, as well as their business,
Right.
if anything came out of it. Nothing has.
Yeah.
So Scott and I clicked right away. We have similar personalities. He's the chef de cuisine. He oversees all of Chef Everett's restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all about the same age. I'm the youngest out of them. But it's been interesting. You know, Chef Scott did dinners for Julia Child and actually knew her personally.
Oh, wow.
When Chef Scott and Chef Everett went to France, Daniel Blue something. However you say it in French, I can't speak French. Opened up his restaurant during off hours to fix a special meal for them. So some of the top chefs in the world, they've worked with and dealt with, and it's nice that they consider me someone to be a partner with them to work with.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So, but that's kind of how it came about. Scott thought he might have found my resume just online, just searching on Indeed and that. But I said, you may have, I don't know if I applied. I worked for them, it's been a year and a half now. And then decided after a year, when I was getting close to being released from probation and parole, that I should move down here. Because if not, I would have left. Because I'm a very, nomadic person.
Mm-hmm.
I will, if I don't own where I live, I can get a job anywhere. I have a great resume, it cites for my time inside. But it doesn't limit me, but I don't want to go anywhere. I'm getting too old to do that. Not that I'm old, but once you cross 50, you start looking at retirement is now 20 years away, not 40 years away.
Yeah.
And, you know, where do I want to be then? And,
yeah.
The kitchen's a young man's game. I tell you it is. I mean, I've been doing, because we've been so busy, I'm doing 12, 15-hour days. And it just wears.
Yeah.
So do I want to go to New York or San Francisco or someplace like that where New York, a chef works 6 days a week, 15 to 18-hour days. It's just, that's just how it is.
Yeah.
So I didn't. So I decided to buy.
Yeah. So you've bought this house. We're sitting in it, and tell us a bit about that. How did you find this house, and
This
how did it come to be?
was the second house I looked at. Well, I didn't look at. The second house I researched online. How the house came about. My ex and I owned a home. And when I got out of prison, I was living there. And as I was getting done with probation and parole, he was wanting to sell that house and go his way and start back up his life, because he did put it on hold for me, even though we worked together, and that meant a lot. So I told him that I'd like to buy something, if anything, because it's just easier if I can. But I said I'd need the money out of the house. So if you're selling, let's figure it out. And he was in a position where he could buy my half out.
Cool.
So that gave me the funds to be able to buy a house. And I had seen a little 800 square foot house out Route 60 here in Williamsburg. And I showed it to him and I said, this is what I'm thinking of doing. Contacted a realtor to say I wanted to see it. Still not sure. And it had sold by the time we could set anything up. So then I went through with her, and I did a lot of online research. I kept coming back to this one, its location, but they never had interior pictures. So I didn't want to go look at it because that concerned me. Usually homes that don't have interior pictures, there's a reason. And we looked at quite a few homes. none of which just I was happy with. So she's like, just let's go look at this one. Just let's go look at it. So we came and looked at it. It had sat empty for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And on the market. It was grossly overpriced, and I went through it, and I liked it. It was ugly. It was a rental property for 25 years, so it looked like a rental property on the inside. It had the ugly wall colors and horrid carpet, but the bones were nice.
Yeah.
And we made an offer. They countered at full asking. I told them to piss off. Well, she didn't relay that to them. I told her to tell them to piss off. Her husband, strangely enough, my realtor's husband, who was in my corner, is one of the county prosecutors for York County, and now a judge. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. So she said, we went and looked at this house that I thought would be ideal. But we opened the door and the smell of animal urine was so strong your eyes were burning.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, I just don't know. We're not finding anything. She said, tomorrow come back. I'll get an appointment. There was no power on, so we couldn't go to the basement in there. And the owners who owned the house bought it to tear down, so they had no idea what was done to the home.
Oh, wow.
So all that information was like, God, if everything mechanically looks like I can't afford that. So we came in with flashlights and spent 4 hours going through the house, the crawl space, the basement, looking at the appliances. The appliances in the kitchen were horrible, but the furnace is 2 years old. The hot water heater was put in just before the last sale. They upgraded all the plumbing. I have all the flex tubing plumbing rather than the hard plumbing. And they upgraded all the electrical because he sold it to sell for, it was a selling point. So then I'm like, okay, come to find out the realtor who listed the house is personal friends with the owner of the restaurant I worked at.
Oh.
And he sent a secret message through that said, don't give up. We can come to a deal. Let's sit down and get this worked out. And we did.
Cool.
We came to a very agreeable deal.
Yeah.
I went up $5,000 and they came down $18,000.
Cool.
And I've been happy. I had the guy redo the floors. I'm starting to strip the brick on the fireplace. Not sure how much further I'm going to go on it because I got things set. I've repainted the inside. I had to do a new roof and a new front door.
Wow. The paint looks amazing. So, yeah, you made it all these colors from the 40s, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So the ceiling is green, which is so cute. And yeah, all the other rooms are different colors.
It's a 1940s home. That right there, that wooden box, just to tell you who I work for, that is a 2-inch thick maple countertop that's 5 feet long and 30 inches deep.
Wow.
That Chef Everett had, the owner of the restaurants I work at, and brought it over, and I said, how much do you want for it? And he said, nothing. You help me carry it into your house and you can have it for free. That's an $800 countertop, so that eventually it's going to go in the kitchen.
Yeah. Cool.
When they help me build, because Chef Everett and Chef Scott are also master builders and carpenters. Cool. They do beautiful work. If you've ever been in their restaurant or seen any of their restaurants, most of the woodwork and cabinetry has been built by them.
Wow, that's fascinating. That's cool.
I know. But unfortunately, Chef Everett has purchased a house too, and he's redoing his kitchen, which means I don't have access to him, his workshop, or Chef Scott, and his workshop, because I'm third on the totem pole, which I'm fine with, because I got everything else done in the kitchen. I want to rip out all the counters, do a wall mount sink by the door.
Cool, yeah.
And then do a 5 foot by 3 foot deep, or 30 inches, whatever it is, cabinet that's open front with just shelves, and do 4 by 4 square blocks to hold it up, and then just have 2 shelves and have it just be open like an old farmhouse 1940s kitchen was.
Cool. Yeah. Did you to buy the house? Did you have to get a loan, or did you?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Was
I
that
wish I had
hard
cash.
with your record?
No, they didn't.
It didn't matter.
Nothing. No one asked me about my record.
Interesting.
Because. So if you get out and think you can just go buy a house, listen to this. You need 2 years of working records. They don't care after that. And I had 2 years worth of working records. They didn't even care what the first year of working was. And let me tell you, I started at $9 an hour at the bagel shop. And I was lucky because I had some experience. So they gave me $9 because she wanted me to work for her. But just to let you know where that can go, in a year and a half-ish there, I was up to $12 an hour. So if you work and prove yourself, they'll reward you. And so basically, I went and got pre-approved. And I chose a bank that I won't mention, but they're going to be losing my business soon once everything gets settled because they royally screwed everything up. And I ended up at Town Bank, who in 15 days got me a home loan.
Cool.
When the other bank spent 45 days and kept asking for more information because they kept screwing up the paperwork, which then the underwriter didn't want to sign off on, and then they asked for more for me. Like, they wanted me to prove that I paid off a loan. And I said, I sent you the statement that shows the loan's paid off. And they're like, how did you pay it off? And do you have proof that you paid it off and not taken a loan out to pay off a loan? And I said, I don't have a loan for it. How do you want proof? Do you want me, could you have them send us a letter today stating that you paid off the loan from a check from you or from a transfer from your bank? I said, you have my bank account. You can see the transfer. We won't look it up. You'll need, and so then it just became every week what was everything's going through. We got everything we need. All you need is we had to change the contract slightly because they were places we missed on signing because there's a lot of paperwork with buying a house. And then they came back with 9 other items. And even the bank manager got involved and he's like, I'd go somewhere else. So I did.
So how long have you been here at the house now?
I moved in September. No, I closed August 15th. And the last weekend in September, I moved in.
Cool. Well, it looks amazing. And I was so happy today. So I often ask people in these interviews what they're most passionate about. So I feel like I'll ask you that, but I have a feeling that we've already talked about the answer. But yeah, what are you most passionate about?
Oh, I don't have a most passionate. I have things that I'm extremely passionate about.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's one over the other.
Okay.
Well, that's not correct. If you talk to my employees, I'm extremely passionate about food and cooking.
Yes. That was my guess.
And I do love doing it, and I love having people over. But I almost equally as much, that is my passion that I share with myself, is gardening and yard work and that stuff outside, because in the restaurant you're in a kitchen. Now I am blessed that the kitchen I work in has these big beautiful windows and I get to see outdoors and have natural light all day. But you're still stuck inside. So I love doing that, but I also like having, like, my house is driving me crazy right now because it's not set. So I'm very passionate about getting it set and then having people over. But food and gardening.
Yes, and your gardening is phenomenal. I'm looking forward to seeing what you do now that you're here at this house. But I remember your gardening from your other house. So Dale often sends me pictures of his amazing flowers, which always brighten my day and make me really happy. So do you have big plans? I know you were saying you're getting
I'm
stuff
going to
right
do an herb garden right out this wall. And then in front here, I just cleaned out 2. They had all the wrong plants, so I just removed them. And I'm not sure what I want to do there. I'm stuck yet. So it'll come to me. On the other side of the door, I cleaned all that out and rebuilt the bed, because there apparently was a bed there, because when I started tilling up the ground, I found all the bricks that lined the bed. So that has my wind chimes, a bird feeder, and bird bath, and then has 105 tulips. And then when the tulips go, I will do sunflowers there.
Oh, cool.
You should always plant sunflowers by your front door. It shows a house that's friendly and welcome. This side, I'm wrestling because off the doorstep into about the window, I'm really thinking of getting some patio brick to make a little like place for a bistro table to sit, so I can sit out front, and then plant the rest. The other side of the house, I've now found used to have beds that have overgrown that I'm going to clean out, and I think my lavender garden will go over there.
Oh, cool. That'll be nice.
More because it brings bees, and I'm only planting the lavender for the bees. And so I made a mistake at the last house. We used to have lavender right by the front door, and boy, when the lavender's pollinating, you get a lot of bees. Now, they're not going to hurt you because they're drunk on pollen, but it scares the kids. And because they were by the door, when you shovel, all the moisture goes down onto them, and lavender needs better draining soil than Virginia has, so I have to put it where I can control that.
Cool.
And then the back, I have some posts that are already in, and a tree stump that needs removed, but it's a big tree stump, very big. So I may look at, since those wooden posts are in, I'm thinking if I just got a couple more, I could just enclose that and make little raised beds there.
Cool.
Or the other thought is to do trellises between the posts and do some climbing roses or something to build like a little privacy fence. And on the back, because I have the privilege, one reason why this house sat so long for sale was, so I live in a commercial district. It's zoned commercial. I thought of starting my own business here because I'm certified to be a bed and breakfast, so I thought I could be the first tiny house bed and breakfast. But then I thought the house is so small that people would drive me crazy. But I have a hotel that sits right off my backyard. I mean, literally. And so where they have their fence, I want to do, I'm thinking the cost prohibitive, so it may take many years, but I'd like to do black bamboo.
Oh, cool.
But I need like 8 plants according to the way it spreads, and at $50-some a plant, I don't want to spend that much for a border, so I may do something else.
Cool.
Along their fence line. I have great neighbors.
Yeah.
They watch out for the neighbors next door on this side. Are personal friends with most of my employees. So they came up, and at first it was a little difficult because they all thought I was fixing the house up to rent. They became very upset when they found out I wasn't. But then when they found out where I worked, now I forgot to take my garbage out the other day. They came and wheeled it out to the curb. He's like, Robbie tells us to watch you. Robbie tells us to watch you. So I feel like I'm being watched all the time, but it's kind of nice because I live in a very commercial area. And I have hotels all around me and 2 neighbors, that's it. Which I'm happy with. So, but yeah, food's my most passionate, I guess. Ice cream now.
Ice cream,
30 years in this business, and I couldn't figure out where my specialty lies, and now it's ice cream.
Which is awesome.
We got a rum raisin we're doing now.
Oh, yeah.
But instead of doing the whole raisins, I pureed them after soaking them for 3 days in rum.
Oh, wow.
And then mixed them right in. It kind of tastes like a cinnamon roll with raisins in it.
Wow, cool. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, that's the Christmas ice cream.
That's a good Christmas ice cream.
I wasn't happy about it. I don't like to do traditional things, but
sounds like you made it untraditional then.
yes, I did. Yeah. And most places aren't running rum raisin right now, so.
Right. Yeah.
Cool. And I have to do a beer sorbet. For
Beers.
Chef Everett is doing a beer dinner, and each course will be paired with a beer, and he wants a sorbet.
Wow.
So I'm going to do a beer sorbet to tie it in with the beer theme.
Yeah. Man. So how are you feeling just in general now that you're out and life is going? Do you feel a lot different than when you went in? Do you feel like...
I will tell you, I know I wasn't in long, but you still have bouts of life would be easier if I was just back in prison. There are days that are just really tough, and sometimes it's like, God, it would be nice not to have any bills or expenses and just to be ushered off to get your medication and be ushered off to chow and have your little snacks in your cell and watch your TV and not have to be responsible or accountable. Those don't come very often, but you get them every once in a while. So I can only imagine what someone goes through that's been there before I left probation and parole, and one of the groups I attended, one of the 30 guys that had been in for 33 years had just kind of given up and was willing to go back and said it'd just be easier. He said in the last 3 years, for the 3 years I've been out, it's just been too hard.
Oh, wow.
And I can see how that can set in. You go in at 22 and you come out at 55 and you have no work history. You're trying to get a job, you're trying to get a car, there's a lot of things. So I can see that. But not to quote an old cliche, I like the fact that I can just get in my car because I explained to Alex, I can say his name right.
Yeah, but his name is Taj.
Yeah, well, he's Alex. Dr. Taj. When I got out, he's like, but you're free. And I'm like, so what it's like is prison. So when they go out into wildlife and capture an animal, they put them in a holding pen for a while. Prison's like that holding pen for me. I was confined, I was restricted. I am a person who roams and ventures out. It's not uncommon for me to take off for a day when I'm off and just drive to DC or as far as I can go and then mill around and drive back home. Then when I got out of prison, it was like I was in the zoo on probation and parole with the 50-mile restrictions and all the things that apply. And I had a pen I could roam in. Now I'm free. I can go where I want when I want, and it was a wonderful feeling it was very frustrating towards the end. There kept being complications. Realize one thing, all you people who are about to get out, who hear this, there are so many rules and regulations for being early released from probation or parole that have to be followed. There's a bunch of steps, and certain things have to be done. The state does not allocate enough refunds or enough funds to see that they can get done in a timely fashion. Now, I believe it's unfair because if you refuse to do some of these things, you go to jail. If they don't give them to you, you can't get off probation early, but they don't go to jail.
Right.
So if you want off, find out what you need to do and then push your PO. Most POs that I've worked with and talked with really want you to succeed, but they have so many people that unless you push them,
Right.
they're not going to do. They'll work for you if you get them to. You show them you want it. All the people that have shown them they've wanted it have gotten off early.
Mm-hmm.
All the ones who've just said, well, why isn't that happening to me?
Yeah.
Have been stuck.
Right.
You have to drive it. It's your life. But the last month it was, I completed everything, told I was, and then they found that there were some incomplete things. And so then I got them taken care of, and then they found another item. Because they review your case before they send it to the courts, because courts have to decide if you get off.
Mm-hmm.
They have to go tell the courts, and they testify, so they're under oath. So if they knowingly know things, or if things are found not correct, they can get punished, and so they're not going to risk their jobs. So we kept finding things, and it kept irritating me. And then they decided to wait because I was getting irritated, which means there must be something going on.
Wow.
I'm a person who likes knowledge, so it really irritated me. So then we finally got it all worked out. And then when it finally happened, it was just like a huge weight.
Yeah.
And I opened a bottle of 14-year-old scotch that night.
Yeah.
And had a $20 cigar.
Nice.
But it was just, and now it's harder now in some aspects on probation and parole. I mean, I have a lot of support. I have more support than most any of you would ever have. I am fortunate with that, and I'm not boasting about that, and I'm not putting down your situation. I've just been blessed with a group of friends that have been invested since this whole thing has started, and family that has come around since this whole thing has started, and they're there. They check on me. They keep me accountable. But now I don't have the whole legal system keeping me accountable, so now I'm on my own. I'm not a career criminal by any means, but you get the idea of, well, I can go do that. I mean, I think twice about if I drink in public on when I should drive next, because it can still come back and haunt you. And so, but now I have to check myself. It's not, oh, my probation officer says I can't do this. It's, can I do this? Do I want to do this? Even since Virginia doesn't have rules on CBD oil yet, and you're not allowed to do it, well, my probation officer said I wasn't. I had to wait. And then even that now, I just got some after being off a while. Because it's just like, not sure. It does work, kind of. But I just wasn't sure what door that might open.
Yeah.
So I had to do my research. So I think more, but you have to think more. You're a felon. Doesn't matter what you say. All that matters is what your record is. When we were going through these issues, and they had decided that maybe I was re-offending, because that's what they decided from my actions, I had my whole support group come forth and say, we will give statements.
Wow.
And the probation and parole said they don't care. Doesn't matter what my support group says, doesn't matter what the people who know me, the people I'm hanging with say. The courts don't care about that. They care about the anger and the displacement and the hostility that I'm showing at that point. So how you talk matters. And how you handle yourself.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes, since I know a lot of people in prison listening to them don't like police, how you talk to the police officer that pulls you over. It's the same thing. They'll either hang you out to dry, or they'll just treat you like a normal person, but your attitude determines that.
Right.
So, but I love being off now.
Yeah.
I get to see my nieces and nephews, well, chat with them more now.
Well, I was gonna say, so
because I get social media and all that now.
Yeah. So you've got this support network, and I know it's really great. Tell us just a little bit about the most important people in your life right now.
Well, since I have multiple personalities, I'll start with me, myself. No, Yang, my ex. He's extremely important. I probably wouldn't be where I'm at without his, not just his financial support, but without his emotional or mental support too. Jen and Aaron and Jamie, Troy and Sarah, who are minister friends who I went to Bible college with, and now he's an Assembly of God minister. But I've known them since college. They're really probably one of the few friends I have clear from back then. And she's been hounding me because she's like, when can you travel here and see? Come on, you have to come. I can't bring my grandbaby there. She's too young. She has she just became a grandmother. Minneapolis.
Oh, okay.
She wanted me not to buy here, to buy in Minneapolis and move there.
Yeah.
But it's cold there.
Yeah.
It's very cold.
It's cold here today too, but
This
much
is
colder
warm.
there.
This is warm. I complained to my mother that it was cold, and she's like, it's 30 degrees here, so be quiet.
Yeah.
My Aunt Mary, who has recently passed, we had a weird relationship growing up. She was married to my uncle. My uncle and my dad didn't get along, and that whole side of the family's weird. When I went into prison and she found out, she wrote me every week.
Wow. Yeah.
Every week. Without fail. Oh, and she got irritated with the prison administration when they returned her letters because she put envelopes and stamps in there. She's like, that's just wrong.
Yeah.
How do they expect you to have money? They pay 30 cents an hour.
Yeah.
We should be able to send it to you in the mail.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not disagreeing, but so I said, but I have stamps, don't worry. And she was, and then when I got out, she was so excited. And we kept in contact, and then about 3 months after being out, she was found dead in her yard.
Oh, wow.
She was outside gardening, and
Oh.
they don't know if she fell and hit her head, if she had a massive heart attack and caused the fall, which then caused a stroke.
Yeah.
But she was found by a neighbor laying in the side of her yard. And even though I'd been out 3 months, probation and parole allowed me to travel back to Iowa to go to her funeral.
Oh, wow, that's good.
Oh, it was a lot of work. But I had to talk to the head of probation and parole.
Wow.
Who actually I had an in with because connections matter. They do a home visit, or she did a home visit before I got out of prison to see where I was living and how I'd be living, if it was acceptable, or would I have to go to a halfway house. And she did my home visit, the head of probation and parole. And her and Yang, I was allowed things the day out of prison that people who'd been out for 2 years, 3 years still hadn't been allowed. Because Yang laid out how the house was set up and how things were going to be and what it was going to be. And she just was like, that works. You've got this.
Yeah.
So it matters.
Yeah.
If he'd have gotten he didn't want to meet with them. He didn't want to have to deal with that. But if he'd gotten an attitude with her, it could have changed things drastically.
Yeah.
But he just accepted the situation. So tell your moms, dads, wives, or girlfriends, our partners, just stay calm and enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing to enjoy, but if they look like they're enjoying it and supporting you, it'll go easier down the road. That connection. She stopped me at the probation office, right just before I learned my aunt had passed away, and said, are you the one whose house I went to? And she asked where I lived. She goes, oh, you have a lovely garden in that. And she was going on and on. And then the next day she had to call me to talk to me about going home and the issues with it. But we had that relationship, so that added in.
Yeah.
And then my cousin whose house I stayed at, her father's a police officer, so that helped because then she called and went over. I know these rules. I know this. I've talked to my dad about this. So now, so use whatever you can. It's all to an advantage.
Yeah.
And yes, pretend to be a friend. My coworkers, and I don't mean to belittle this, think I am their best friend. And I enjoy their company. But they're my employees. But because I take an interest in their family, in their life, and in what they're doing outside of work, they feel we're a friend, which means when I need them to work extra or I need something from them for work, or when I moved, I had 50 people offering to help.
Yeah.
They then pay that back. That's what we as felons need to learn more. How to not have that prison smile and that rough look. Soften yourself and you'll find doors open left and right.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for having me today. So earlier when I first got here, Dale actually made me an amazing lunch. We had pork chops and mashed potatoes and veggies and this amazing gravy, and it was so yummy. And so thank you for doing that. I took a little video of it, so maybe I'll add it in so people can see because it was really, really yummy. But is there anything else you want to share before we go?
Yes, I have a quote. It is a hilarious quote that I thought was stupid, but I really like because it really works for us. Whoops, I have to find it. I'm not handy with these things. Never was before I went in, won't be when I get out. Oh, I am out. It's Anthony Bourdain.
Anthony Bourdain?
Bourdain. I want to say Bourdain. Why is this not working? How do you find your posts? Dumb machine. There we go. He said, the way you make an omelet reveals your character. That matters to us because the way you interact with people shows your character. When you make an omelet, there's a delicacy to it. When you deal with people, there's a delicacy to it. When you show your character, there's a delicacy to it. So just remember that. You're making omelets that can benefit you in the future.
Awesome. Thanks, Dale. Last thing, I'll give you a hug.
Oh, yes.
Thanks.